tranquility, sexy, moist, playful, naughty, inviting, curious, seductive. No. Yes. I am essence. I am power. I am Bobby, the true eighth wonder of the world. Giant by Andre. Exclusively at the Box Score, which starts now.
I don't know a lot about sports, but I can drink a lot of beer.
My motto is simple. C's get degrees.
Need a long, inappropriate hug? I'm your man.
I think I'm smarter than you, because I probably am.
Howard Collins for Box Score.
Hello and welcome to the Box Score. I'm Brock in Los Angeles, and of course I reek of Giant, and they are the Danettes out in Milford, Connecticut. McLovin, you are the Meister of the poll. There's no doubt about that. But when DP came to you for the poll question, you deferred to Fritzy. Why was that?
Well, my main goal with a poll question is not for it to be good or thought-provoking or spur conversation. It's for Dan to say, okay, that's good for the poll question. And I didn't have anything great today, but Todd threw a bunch of nominations out early, and I knew they were going to get him in big trouble, and it was going to be good content because they were strangely inappropriate in a way.
Well, of course they were. Fritzy, one of your poll options was whether or not people started to feel sorry for Donald Sterling. Why are you sympathetic to senile senior citizens?
I'm not personally sympathetic to Donald Sterling, but I am curious as things are moving along and after what Mark Cuban said recently, even though he put his foot in his mouth a little bit and almost admitted that he's going to vote against stripping Donald Sterling from the team when they vote next week, the owners. I'm just curious to get a little pulse of the nation, if there's any group out there that has any more sympathy for this old man who's very, very confused about the way he looks at the world.
Well, you got pulses pumping because your other poll question caused quite a stir in the man cave.
There are plenty of fans that celebrate when someone gets hurt on the other team. You don't want it to be a very serious injury.
Are you one of those people?
I don't mind if a really good player on a team playing the Broncos.
It's a yes or no.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't celebrate it, but I'm relieved if there's a really good player on the opposing team that's out. That's not going to, affect the game in a negative direction towards Denver. I don't want a career or season-ending injury, but in a particular game, I don't mind if a good player goes down. It increases my team's chances of winning.
Stone.
Why is that such a terrible thing?
Stone.
Sometimes when I listen to Fritzy talk, it's like he's weaving this tapestry of nonsense.
Almost lying to himself.
Sort of floats out there, if I could borrow from A Christmas Story, and hangs, and you're like, what in the hell is he talking about? And he also, it's weird for the nicest Danette, he also has this unbelievable cruel streak that runs through him, that comes through in this just sort of like, hey, I'm just asking if anybody was overjoyed that this guy blew out his knee. I'm just curious to get the pulse of the nation.
The funny thing is, he won't embrace it. Like, he does wish that a player on the other team would get hurt, but you'd want him hurt for a couple quarters, but not the whole season. But so that would help your team even more. So you're choosing not to have your team help because you want to come off like you're a nice guy.
I don't wish any ill will. It's not like when the game's about to start, I'm rooting for an injury. If an injury happens...
That's not what anyone said. If a player got hurt from the opposing team, would you be happy because it helps your team?
I would, at that moment, be happy as long as I know that they weren't going to, having any kind of serious injury where it's going to affect their whole season or their career. I would never go that far. But if they're playing my team and a top player on the opposition that's playing the Broncos goes down, that's good for Denver and it gives them a better chance of winning. But I don't want to find out later that they've got some kind of serious problem that they need. Like,
what if you do find out later they have some serious problem? Do you feel bad about it?
I would feel bad. I would. I don't want any major injuries.
Even if it's a Raider,
for the course of that game. Ooh, yeah. You know what? Even a Raider.
I love this.
You're like, be out for that game. And are there any top Raiders anyway? Who would we even be talking about? That would be
okay. How about this then? The star player for the Raiders gets injured in Week 1, but your team, the Broncos, doesn't play him until Week 10, and then again in Week 16. Would you want that player to be out for the season with that injury?
I would not.
You're lying.
I don't. And I'm still waiting for who that top Raider would be.
Yeah, it depends how good he is and how good they are.
I understand what Paul is saying, but I don't want anyone having a season-ending injury, and at least not to.
Phillip Rivers.
I'm not a big Philip Rivers fan. I don't want him out for the year, though, because there's something to be said for Dan's argument about how you want to beat the best. But I'm talking about when they're playing my team.
Anyone else is confused? Can you find your way through this?
When they're
maze
playing my team, I want Denver to win. But I don't want anyone out for the year. Even if it means a more competitive situation in the Broncos division. I don't want someone that. I don't want someone that hurt.
Tapestry of nonsense.
All right. 20-second timeout for him. Paulie, let's go hypothetical. How about Bears and Packers? Clay Matthews and Aaron Rodgers go down in the first quarter. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do like that in the moment of a game. Like Fritzy said, but I'm too much of a sports fan to want a guy out for a season. But if it's a second quarter and a defensive end for the Bears jumps on Aaron Rodgers and knocks him out for the rest of the game, if I see him on the sideline holding a clipboard, I'm great. If I see him with a bone sticking out of his leg, I'm like, no, I don't want that.
Well, it might make for a great show the next day. How about you, McLovin? Let's go. Let's go Philadelphia and the Cowboys. What if Romo and Des Bryant were to go down?
Yeah. First of all, I don't think if you're an Eagles fan, you really care much about the Cowboys right now. But I don't root. Honestly, I root for my predictions and my idiotic statements to become true. I don't even root for the Eagles. If I called that the Cowboys were going to beat the Eagles on Friday's show, even an offhanded comment by the water cooler with
You're pulling for Dallas.
I'm pulling for Dallas. So I don't have the fanness, which Dan alluded today on today's show. I don't think the five of us have those intense feelings, except for Fritzy on the Broncos, that we root for guys on a rivals get injured. We're really rooting for the best story. In that sense, getting Romo and Des Bryant hurt on the same day would mean huge ratings for us on Monday. So I'm for it.
Well, we went to the home of pain, Twitter, and we wanted to see who wanted to see you guys get injured for a show. And Fritzy, oh my goodness, it's Gary. And Gary said, Fritzy, he's out 2 weeks a year, so nothing new. Plus a break from mock headlines is needed for his fans. You see, Fritzy, that's not nice.
That's not nice at all.
That's mean-spirited, and that's also not technically correct. It's closer to a month.
So there you go. That's, if he's going to diss me, be more accurate about my time missed from medical reasons.
Yeah. Well,
but
maybe
that's just weak.
Maybe Gary's wrong, but maybe Milt may be right, because he wrote, Fritzy, so I can actually enjoy the show without incompetence, and you can have female guests without them being creeped out. McLovin, is that a good point?
Well, the second part I will agree with. The first part I totally disagree with. There's nothing incompetent about Todd, but I definitely do think that it would be nice if occasionally a woman came into the man cave without any sort of legal documents.
I could totally understand and appreciate
security
that.
guards and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's like,
let's go to the home of true pain politics, and DP found out he was nominated to the office of Lieutenant Governor of Texas. Paulie, let me ask you, could you find another Dan Patrick he's confused for that doesn't talk so much?
Oh, man. Well, you know what? It was a pretty good interview at first. It was cool last night. I got a bunch of people from Texas who sent me this note about Dan's picture being up there when it should have been the Texas State Senator, Dan Patrick. We got a hold of him late in the show, and it was funny because he talked about how he got mistaken for Dan gets mistaken for him. It's been a running gag on the show, kind of behind the scenes for years, because we get tons of the Senator's emails. And it's kind of cool that we can finally put a bow on it and have him on. But I don't want to make fun of the Senator too much, because I think he probably doesn't go on sports radio shows that often, and when he finally does, it's like, I've got all this sports stuff to say. Yeah. I don't know if I'm ever going to be on with Dan Patrick again. Probably not. I got to get it in now. He's just like everybody else who, this is my shot to be on with Dan. I got to let it loose. So I don't blame him too much.
Yeah, he looked like a kid trying to fit in, and not necessarily to impress Dan, but look, hey, I'm a sports guy too. I don't want you to think I'm a politician. I've been in your world, and I kind of reciting his resume a little bit to say, hey, I've got a similar background. Let's be buds.
Well, of course, you had Dan Patrick on the show, and he shared the problems that he shares with Dan Patrick.
I was in Las Vegas one time, and I came out of the hotel, and I called down for a car, and I came out, and I said, hi, I'm Dan Patrick. Is there a car? And there were like 200 guys, your audience, your guy, your demo. They were all there because they had heard Dan Patrick's coming out to get in this car. And I've gotten good seats that, I'll call airlines to get a seat. Is this the Dan Patrick? My husband watches you all the time. Dan, I have done well living in your shadow. I'm very excited to have your name.
Yeah, I think our Dan Patrick is definitely getting the short end of the stick here, because with at least sports broadcasting, it's like everybody loved, watching Dan now and on ESPN and sort of grew up with him. And it's like, oh, Dan, what's up, dude? How you doing? Politics, man, you don't get anything good out of that. You always have half of the people that hate you. And Dan hears from both sides, I would say, pretty equally. He gets actually a lot more positive Texas Dan Patrick email than negative. But it is so weird to see them confused, and like all of a sudden we'll get 50, emails in our inbox on immigration reform, and you're like, what?
Yeah, what was Dan doing last night?
Yeah.
All right, well, we asked the boss what laws he would put into motion to get the man cave in order. Here's what he said in this edition of Boss's Thoughts.
Maybe putting in a full day's work. Nobody's allowed to be hungover. No sick days, no whining, complaining. Maybe we do suit and tie. Maybe a red tie, white shirt, blue sport coat. Maybe we start shaping up a little bit here. We are representing the Tea Party. Oh, come to think of it, Tea Party's not wearing suits. I guess these guys can dress pretty much the way they've been dressing.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think Dan likes any of those rules that he just instilled. Like, he specifically doesn't want us wearing suits. Trust me, I've tried. I'd love to wear a suit every day.
He wants us all to be comfortable.
I want makeup in the studio, and Dan won't. He wants us to look how we do it. That's for all those other rules. It's not like, we're not exactly encouraged to take time off here at the Dan Patrick Show.
I would have swore that rule was already in place, actually.
Yeah.
The whole no time off, no sick days thing.
Yeah, I think those laws that Dan just put in there would mostly affect him.
Unless you have a major gun wound, I don't think you're really, you're really not encouraged.
He's got his own sick time.
You have to be in the ICU to get out, basically. That's the only line that we'll draw.
Yeah, even when we're out, we've all been, Paul's, we've been in the hospital and he's sending in show rundowns. I'm booking guests with IVs in both my arms, so we're all still trying to contribute even when we're not here, because the guilt of missing a day, God forbid one of us is out, it's very.
That's actually not true in my case. It might be in their case, but when I'm gone, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I don't do.
My guilt is starting to fade.
Coming up, we'll look at 50 Cent's problem on the mound, and do the Danettes have any advice for him? We'll be right back.
Like Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. Don't rub me the wrong way. On second thought, please do. Rub some Lucas oil on me and I'll spray some on you. So won't you sit on my lap? I got some cold Mountain Dew.
Welcome back to the Box Score. T. Frizzle doing his thing there.
Good times, good times.
Oh, my God.
Fritzy, are you a fan of 50 Cent? And if so, can you drop a little for us?
Yeah, I've got a little something here. Go shorty, it's your birthday. We got a party like it's your birthday. We got a sip of Bacardi like it's your birthday. You can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Look, mommy, I got the X if you're into taking drugs.
That sounds like Shitty Scent.
I'm into having sex, I ain't into making love, so come give me a hug if you're into getting rubbed.
All right.
Oh, maybe Fitty should have been rubbed, because he's not much of a sports fan, as he threw out this pathetic pitch at yesterday at Citi Field. McLovin, watching this, does this make you feel better about your athleticism?
Why did you ask me that, Brock?
Wow.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I mean, like the best athlete of the four.
I thought Paulie was the obvious choice, so I wanted to defer from, get away from Paulie on this one.
Brock, you're actually pretty smart, because one of my worst nightmares is that I would go Baba Booey in that situation, because I gotta admit, I do get like stage fright in front of people. But I tell you, when we first started this show, like throwing out a first pitch at a baseball game seemed like something that in our wildest dreams can't happen. Now, like the Phillies can call me tomorrow and say, "You want to throw out the first pitch?" I'm like,
shocked.
I don't know, whatever. It's a Thursday. I'll get back to you.
To be fair, in our wildest dreams, it still hasn't happened. We got to back up Dan.
Right.
We were the Danettes in every sense of the word when Dan threw out the first pitch twice. So we have never thrown out a first pitch in a ball game.
Contraire.
Except for the big guy.
True.
Well, Paulie, you thought there was something nefarious about the whole 50 Cent throwing it way off, and here's what you said.
Paulie thinks that he actually threw the first pitch that way to get attention. He tanked it.
Yes, he has an album coming out next week.
But, Paul, are we going to buy his CD because he threw a bad pitch at a Mets game?
Well, we in this room are probably not going to buy it. But publicity, you want publicity.
The kids aren't going to buy it. Are they going to go, damn, that guy he's a hustler. I'm going to buy that. When that thing drops, I'm buying that.
Everyone's talking about him today.
Yeah, but not in a good way.
I just want to be clear about one thing, and we should get it on record. Gary Dell'Abate's throw was way worse than 50 Cent's, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves with that. His throw was brutal. It went off camera. At least 50 Cent you could follow and see the destination. And then Paulie's conspiracy theory, I like it. I don't know if I necessarily buy into it, but Paulie's usually good at finding the sort of calculated angle on why this is all drummed up, you know, conspiracy marketing kind of thing.
He should have got Nuke LaLoosh and overthrown him and hit the mascot that was in the third row, like
sort of Bill Murray.
A little more manly than
I think his lack of shame and embarrassment on his face after throwing the pitch tells me that he knew exactly what he was doing. Any tough guy like him, he seems like a pretty tough guy. And if he threw that, you'd be like, oh, you'd at least do one of these, even for a second, where and then you get to the other, then you'd laugh it off. There wasn't even that moment of shame.
Maybe Fitty should have consulted the boss. Who can forget the trip to Wrigley's? DP took the mound, two guys, and not only threw one first pitch, but he got a second chance and threw one for a strike.
Oh, boy.
Fritzy, do you think Dan should have been allowed 2 first pitches?
Normally, I would say no. Everybody gets to one pitch. That's the whole excitement and pressure of the whole experience. But we wink at it for Dan. He's been there once before, and given his resume in the sports world, I would give Dan a pass. I wouldn't give a pass to a lot of other celebs or athletes.
Because you don't work for them?
And that's part of it. And I also, since Dan's the boss, I'm going to say it's quite all right to give him one more shot at it.
And the guy who was catching is Carlos Marmol, who basically, his first pitch was about as close to a strike as Carlos Marmol got the rest of the year.
Yeah, Carlos, I think, is in AAA since then.
Yeah, he just got picked up.
Really nice dude, by the way, during that whole experience.
Yeah, we had no choice.
Well, Fritz, you had an opportunity to throw out a first pitch. You went out there in Milwaukee, went out to the bump, threw out the first pitch.
Oh my God.
It was a little high. Well, I'm sure everyone was busy being mesmerized by the guns hanging out of your tank top. It's bear season. Seton, did he dress like that on purpose?
I have to be honest with you. I don't even know if we've ever really addressed it, but I have no idea why Fritzy was dressed that way. And if it wasn't the guns, it was those blazing nipples that were on display for everybody. That was fascinating.
That wasn't a great look.
I like that look is what's comfortable for him, because it was uncomfortable for the other 40,000 who were watching. Now, here's something Fritzy did not know. I don't know if he knows to this day. That whole thing was kind of fixed. When they came up to us and said, do you want to throw out the first pitch? We put all our names in the hat. We wrote Fritzy's name in the hat 5 times.
Yeah, I did not know that at first. I found out later on that wasn't fixed. I know it ended up being an exciting moment. I probably would have chosen a different wardrobe. Not by
now, you
much.
had a shirt you could have chosen from. They actually had sleeves, and then you took it off.
Yeah, that was questionable, and it certainly wasn't in game shape to be parading around in that particular.
The only difference between that outfit with Fritzy standing on the mound and in his hotel room is pants. Other than that, I think he actually still has the camera strap. He had a camera strapped to his head.
By the way, is that 2 hours later, Fritzy got stuck in a giant sausage? If my memory recalls me. Get me out of here.
Whatever pressure there is in going on the mound and trying to throw something that's remotely a strike compared to what was going on when I was passing out in that sausage costume. I'll take that first pitch.
I had a great day.
Yeah, that was the best.
I think the fans did too. Coming up, we'll find out what music gets the Danettes rocking as we play our favorite game. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Peter Criss from KISS. My favorite Danette is you, Seton. Seton, I hear you calling, meow, 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 box score. Welcome back to the box score. Seton, it's no doubt you are the musical master of the man cave. Fritzy, would you agree with that assessment, meow, meow?
Yes. I usually pick Seton for anything that's going on around here. I just have this little affinity towards O'Connor. So yeah, that was a good job by Peter Criss.
Well, we wanted to know what music got you rocking, so we asked you all your favorite bands. Let's see how well your partner knows your musical taste as we play another edition of
Know Your Row!
Back Row McLovin. What was Fritzy's favorite band?
I think a soulful duo from the streets of South Philadelphia, Daryl Hall and John Oates.
Was it Hall & Oates?
Favorite band would be Mr. Daryl Hall and John Oates. Hall & Oates by far #1.
Yeah, that's easy. These guys, as much as they can't stand it, they let me have my moment where I'm singing "You Make My Dreams" and "Family Man" and "Kiss on My List" and all that. So I managed to work that into conversation, even if it doesn't fit all the time. So I've been a huge Hall & Oates fan for many, many years, and I'm glad McLovin remembered that because I know I'm not going to remember his favorite.
Actually, Fritzy Hall & Oates' Hall of Fame acceptance speech was shorter than your answer.
There you go. Very nice.
And please don't fit man-eater to any conversation. Front row, Seton, who do you think Paulie picked?
If Paul doesn't say Rush, then I want this game to be investigated for some type of payola point shaving scandal.
Will we be investigating for point shaving? Was it Rush?
It's weird to say you don't necessarily have one because I always have like 3 or 4 that I like. Everyone's going to say Rush, but they're not my favorite band of all time. I'm going to say The Police.
Yeah, I knew when I answered this that we were going to get this wrong. I do love Rush, but I'm more defensive about Rush because I don't like people picking on them because they're a great band. The Police is probably my favorite band of all time. There's other bands that are up there. I've got like 5, but I was on the spot
Thanks.
there.
See, if I was going to say your second favorite band, aside from Rush, which it is, I would have said Depeche Mode.
You would have been right there because I came this close to saying Depeche Mode, and it was a toss-up.
Back to Fritzy. What did McLovin say?
I was going to go with the Rolling Stones or Styx, but
Mannheim Steamroller.
Still going to go with Styx.
I'm going to go with Kool and the Gang. I could see him dancing around to Celebration at his bar.
That answer equals I have absolutely no idea.
Will you be celebrating? Was it Kool and the Gang?
That's a tough call. Probably Velvet Underground.
Velvet Underground.
Styx was really, it depends. I mean, which album we're talking about.
McLovin said Velvet Underground probably 7 times in the past 5 years.
And Kool and the Gang. When I was on the bar mitzvah circuit in suburban Philly in the 80s, I was all about Kool and the Gang.
McLovin was torn between Velvet Underground and Pavement. That's your other.
See, I was thinking about going Pavement right there, which is really just a cheap Velvet Underground knockoff. But Fritzy's never heard of any of the bands that I like.
I have not.
Yes.
If it's not Run DMC,
you know, you sit next to me all day. Would you get to know me just a little?
I should make an effort a little bit. But we had that wall up for a while, which still bothers me.
It's just got no interest in knowing us.
Yeah, you should have guessed the true knockoff, Pizza Underground with Macaulay Culkin. And finally, Paulie, who did Seton choose?
Now, this is tough because he's a New Jersey guy, and you would think you'd go Springsteen or Bon Jovi or Southside Johnny. I'm going to stick with what was said months ago, and I overheard Seton saying his favorite band was Hot Water Music, and he probably went away from it and went somewhere else. No. But at one time I heard him say that phrase.
Was it Hot Water Music?
That's the most impossible question ever. You can't, there's no way to answer that in just one of these. My favorite band ever? I don't know. Nirvana. Oh! I just totally like space because it's like Hot Water Music is. I have Hot Water Music tattoos.
Yeah.
You know.
But ever.
Yeah, and then it's like I don't know. Nirvana was a pretty big deal. I liked them a lot, and then Jawbreaker is probably my most favorite band ever.
Love the Jawbreakers.
I don't know how you can't answer that.
Is Hot Water Music a spin-off of Hot Tuna? I don't really know this band.
It's a Bukowski novel, first of all. Mr. Literary should know that, but
all right, I am shocked to say, but the back row won Know Your Row. We got more to come on the box score, but first let's check Fritzy on a night out in the town when he's not in his hotel room. Thanks for coming out to the Seven Seas Lounge. Beautiful crowd out there tonight. Thank you, music lovers. Any requests? Play Hall & Oates. You know what? You got it. Private time when I'm alone with my low main and porn. Send the maid away. This can take all day. Welcome back to the box score, guys. We've been talking about Johnny Football partying out in Vegas with Gronk. But it looked like he wasn't a big winner because when he was flying back to Cleveland, he sat in the middle seat. Ooh, my goodness. McLovin, is that any way for a high roller to roll?
I don't know what Johnny's doing. In college, he's flying private to NBA Finals when it's clearly against every NCAA rule. Now that he's pro, he's going cheap. It makes absolutely no sense.
Can I give you my conspiracy theory?
Yes.
He missed his original flight and had to get on that one.
Boom. Vegas.
Oh, A.J. McCarron should have woken him up.
Yeah.
Fritzy, what's the most miserable story you could share with us about flying?
Most miserable was having about a 6-hour delay flying, coming out of Chicago with a connection, and there was a kid that kept kicking my seat from behind, and I was letting it go for a while, and then I looked back, and like the parents were clueless, and they did nothing to stop this kid from just continuously kicking my chair, and there was nowhere I can move because it was a sold-out flight. So for a couple hours, I had to deal with this kid periodically just stomping at my the back of my back, which was not a good time.
One time I had this really messy flight. It was out to a Super Bowl. I think we were going to either New Orleans or Indy, and it was like, could barely get on the flight, and I'm like cutting through here with like fitting like my big bag. Then I look at Dan. Dan happens to get on the same airport wherever I do. He's got 2 first-class seats. It's chilling out, spread out. Gives me a, hey, what's up, man? And then he goes back to his magazine, and I had the worst flight of my life where Dan sits in the lap of luxury.
I've had a bunch of like, you know, drunk sleeping on the floor in the airport. Those kind of things, or like delays and stuff like that. None of that ever really bothered me. My worst flight experience, though, was I was with an ex-girlfriend and we were going on vacation together, and I booked us tickets to fly to Key West, but I booked them like standby because it was cheaper, and we didn't get on the original flights that we had, and my girlfriend started crying in the airport, and all of the like airline employees were looking at me like, you cheap mother, like you are such a loser. And they actually ended up feeling bad for us and sort of hooked us up a little bit on the next flight. We got upgraded to first class, which was cool, but for that first like 2 hours of the trip, I was the biggest loser in the world, and everyone knew about it.
I haven't had that many bad experiences. I was on my honeymoon and we're on the way to Hawaii, and I guess from LA to Hawaii is maybe about 5 hours, and we were about 2 hours in past LA. The pilot gets out and goes, well, we're having engine 1 is having a little issue. We got 4 engines. We're kind of in a situation where we're in no man's land. Do we keep going to Hawaii, or we turn back and go to LA? So we're going to press on through. That was probably the only time I've ever been nervous on a plane, because there's no airport you can really like settle for in the middle of the Pacific there. I was like, wow, this is pretty gutsy. I wish he just wouldn't have told us, because there's not much I could do about it back here.
What was he asking your opinion?
Right, raise show of hands. Do you want to turn around and go back to LAX, or press out through Dakota?
We took my aunt to scatter her ashes, and the pilot was trying to stick the poster tube, which they had given me my aunt in. Couldn't get that out the window, brought it back in, popped the top, and then Aunt Alice all over the cabin of the plane, partially in my mouth, bone chips.
Wow. What an asshole.
Right. And when he finally got it out, he poured it all over a yacht that was right under us, so congratulations on those burgers.
Awesome.
That's the worst story I ever heard in my life.
The greatest.
Rest in peace, Aunt Alice, and thank you for your inheritance. Fritz, who's on tomorrow?
Our friend Rich Eisen of the NFL Network will stop by and
former
see what
Mothership
else
employee.
we can come up with for tomorrow. He's comes out every
game
week.
show host.
Yeah, friend of Dan Patrick.
We showed a picture of him recently grilling.
Notorious
hot dogs and
griller.
hamburgers.
Amateur stand-up comedian.
Did every round of the NFL draft.
Godfather.
We're working on some other things.
Good American.
Is he done? Perfect. All right. Thank you, guys, and thanks for watching. You can catch us weekdays at 3 p.m. Eastern only on Audience Channel 239 right here on DirecTV. Yeah!
I don't know a lot about sports, but I can drink a lot of beer.
My motto is simple. C's get degrees.
Need a long, inappropriate hug? I'm your man.
I think I'm smarter than you, because I probably am.
Hey, thanks for watching the box score. Holy cow!